Hi, Mark. You had offered to tell us a thing or two and maybe show us some of the tools of the trade.
I teach on occasion, and one of the more popular demos I do involves showing how I ink my work. There's fewer and fewer people who are inking by hand anymore, and more of it is being done digitally. But there are some real advantages to doing it by hand, beyond the fact that I just love working with my hands. But one of the greatest advantages is when you do it by hand, you have an actual physical piece of artwork to sell to collectors, and there's quite a good market for that. So, young people who are interested in getting into comics as artists, I always kind of encourage them to consider inking by hand rather than completing their art digitally. So they have that little extra financial little piece of financial extra to help them get over the hump sometimes.
And they really
By
do
selling.
need that. They really
Yeah.
they really do need that information. They need to think like a business person, I think.
Oh, absolutely, and that's a whole other discussion. But this is the
Look at that.
tool that you need if you're going to ink comics with a brush. And I ink with a brush because it's so flexible.
Hmm.
It's a Kolinsky sable, not any sable, but a Kolinsky sable. Poor little weasel from the Ural Mountains that happens to make the most flexible, most resilient hair. Uh, but again, it's a very versatile tool. You can do practically anything you need, from the finest line that you can imagine to big, thick black areas, just knocking them in. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. Uh, I use a Winsor & Newton Series 7. That's their round Kolinsky sable line, number 2 or number 3. That's kind of the industry standard. Like I say, I like Winsor & Newton, but Raphael, Rembrandt, there are other brands that other people like just as well.
Hmm.
Um, Good old-fashioned Higgins ink. I buy big bottles of it because I go through it pretty quickly when I'm working. Because I water my ink down a little bit to get a better flow, I don't worry about, a lot of people like the black magic, the super black stuff, but just the regular Higgins is good, I think.
Hmm.
Uh, when you consider that most art is sent digitally, I always scan my artwork in when it's done, and if it needs to be darkened up, you can do that in Photoshop. So you don't have to worry about inks being too black. And anyway, this is a piece I finished recently. Before I get
All
to
right.
that, the other tool that you need if you're going to be working in ink, my best friend, the electric eraser.
Oh,
It's basically a machine like a dentist drill with a little cylindrical eraser that will take out ink. Just revolves around and around like a dentist drill, and you don't have to fear the permanence of ink. You use good paper, use a Strathmore 500 paper,
mm,
which is a good, strong composition. You can go into it with the electric eraser and a pencil eraser, not an ink eraser in it. Don't use those ink erasers; they're too rough. A pencil eraser, and you'll be able to take out ink, and the paper will still have enough integrity that you can ink over it again without getting a lot of bleed. And I know these are technical terms for people that don't know them,
it's
but
okay.
if you're into this, this is valuable
Okay.
knowledge. Trust me. Anyway, and this is the finished piece I just finished recently. Using all of the tools,
Wow.
can you see that
Yeah, yeah.
okay?
No, that looks great.
Yeah, a paraphrase of the old movie Them with the giant
Hmm.
ants. Uh,
Wow.
this is a commission I did for a friend. It'll appear in the next various drawings collection that Flesh Publications will have out this summer. But
Nice.
yeah,
Wow.
that's what that's all about. That's what I'm up to these
Very
days.
cool. And well, this is probably a good place for us to wind up. And let me ask you, how long do we have to wait to read more stories of Jack and Hannah in Xenozoic?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Mr. Media.
That's what I'm here for.
I'm working on completing my Storms at Sea project, which is it's a story I wrote, a short story which I'm illustrating that will be out as soon as I'm done with it from Flesh Publications, and it's an ongoing work. This is an
Wow.
illustration of that project, which I did with a different type of media, watercolor and charcoal
Mm.
pencils, um, uh, carbon pencils. I'm sorry. But when I'm done with that project, which is taking me longer than I want, my next project with Plus Publications is a new Xenozoic story.
Wow.
which will probably be prose, heavily illustrated. But for expediency's sake, to get something done on a schedule, I'll probably write it and present it as a text piece, heavily illustrated.
Lots of pictures of Hannah, I'm assuming.
Lots of pictures of Hannah, yes, and an ugly old Jack.
An ugly Jack. That could be his new
Yeah,
nickname, Ugly Jack.
ugly Jack. I like
Poor
that.
Jack. Well, folks, listen. You can order Mark Schultz's new hardcover collection, Xenozoic, at great bookstores everywhere, or order it right now at a great price at mrmedia.com. And Mark, I don't know if I asked you. Can people find you anywhere online? Do you do Facebook or Twitter, any of that kind of stuff?
I have a Facebook site which is run by someone else that I feed information to, but it's if people go to or look up on Facebook, look up Mark Schultz's Xenozoic Tales and Other Stories, you can be part of the conversation over. I do forward and post recent drawings and information about what I'm working on there. So
Very cool. And you know,
that'll keep you informed. Between that and the fleshpublications.com website, you'll be able to keep up on what my ongoing projects
now I
are.
have to ask you. I wasn't planning to, but I have to ask you now that you've shown us all this beautiful art that you've just done. Where can people go to purchase an original from Mark Schultz?
At this point, I am not set to sell or market my work over the internet or in any other capacity other than showing up with it at comic conventions.
Okay, so look for you at a comic book show.
Look for me at a comic convention, or if anyone is interested, they can either, if you write to the Flesk Publications website, John Flesk, the publisher, forwards requests to me if anyone is interested in purchasing any
Very
art.
good. Well, Mark Schultz, thank you so much for joining us on Mr. Media today.
Oh, great be here.
Thank you. A
Appreciate
lot
it,
of fun.
Bob.
And folks, for more original interviews with your favorite comic book artists and writers, surf over to our main website, mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. You should subscribe to Mr. Media on iTunes and you'll never miss a show. Just search Mr. Media Interviews from within iTunes and subscribe for free. You can also listen with a piece of string and a tin can in many locations. Just ask Mark, he's done it. If you've got an idea for a guest, a comment on today's show, or would like to advertise on Mr. Media, email me directly at bob@mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. You can also follow me on Facebook or on Twitter, twitter.com/Andelman, or on Facebook, just search Mr. Media Interviews. Thank you so much for joining us today. Always appreciate when you give a piece of your day and spend it with us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, folks. See you next time.